Okay, this is the exam recap for linear functions, Unit 2. Okay, so graphing this line, remember that we have this form, which is called slope-intercept form, mx plus b, and b represents your y-intercept, and the m is your slope. So as a fraction, we call it the rise over the run. Okay, so you're going to start on your y-intercept of -7. So you draw a point at -7, and then you're going to rise 2 and run 3. So I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to go right 3, and I'm going to draw a point, and then once I connect it, and I make sure I put arrows to make a line. Okay, next, our line is in point slope. So on your formula sheet, you would see rise x minus x1 equals run y minus y1. So this gives us our slope, so -4/3. And this would give us a point. But we have to be careful because we're subtracting the value. So in the formula, because it's a subtracting, it's the opposite. So the point is -5, +8. So I'm going to go to -5, +8. So that's that coordinate, -5, +8. And then I'm going to go down 4, right 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4 down, right 3. And then that creates this negative slope of my line. Okay, next we're in general form. So ax plus by plus c equals 0. So we have some formulas. So on our sheet, it says that the slope is the -a divided by b, and the y-intercept is if you take -c and divide it by b. Okay, so our y-intercept is -10 over -2, which ends up making 5. And our slope is -a, so the opposite, this is +5, so we have -5, and b is -2. So what happens in math when you have a negative and a negative? It ends up being positive. So you would go up 5 and right 2. Okay? If you didn't think to change this to positive, this would make you go down 5, left 2. Down, and then this would go left. So watch what happens, down and left. It doesn't matter because it all ends up into the same line. So it should work out the same, but you would just have to note that this would move left as a negative. Okay. Write the equation of this line. So first of all, I would look at this point, since I have it, a y-intercept of 1. Can you think of how you're rising and running? Up and over gets me to the next point. So what does up 1, right 1? What does that equal? 1. So the slope is 1. So y equals mx plus b. Can you fill some stuff out? Y equals 1x for a slope plus 1 for the y-intercept. And in math, we don't really write 1x. It's not wrong. But that's how I would write it. Just x plus 1. Okay, what is the slope of this line that goes through these 2 points? So on your formula sheet for your exam, you would see slope is the rise, which is the difference of your heights, that's how much you rise, over the run, which is the differences in your x. So if I'm going to call this point 1, this is x1 and y1. And if I call this my second point, this is x2 and y2. And then it's all a matter of filling it in. So I'm going to go 1, subtract a -3, 2, subtract a -5. Now we have to be careful here. What happens when you subtract negatives? It ends up adding. So I get 4. And actually, again, we have a subtract a negative, which adds, and we get 7. Okay? Also, you could visually do this, or graphically. So down here is the coordinate -5, -3, and then 2, 1 is over there. So you can just ask yourself, what did you do? So I went from a -3 to a 1, so I went up 4. And I went from a -5 on the integers, right? And think of a number line. I went from -5 all the way over to 2. So that is a right 7. Same idea. What is the equation of a line that's parallel to this line? So we're going to have to find the slope of this line. So when it's in general form, we use the slope is -a over b. So -a, the opposite of that, over b. So again, 2 negatives actually end up being positive. So my question is, when you have a parallel slope, your slope is going to be what? So if this is 7/8, yours is also 7/8. So now I know a y-intercept of 3, and I know my slope is 7/8. mx plus b. Parallel is the same slope. What is the equation of the following? Okay, so my question for you, what is always the same no matter where you are on this line? What is the consistent thing? What's always the same? Every point, so this would be like 8, 2. This would be the coordinate 8, 9. And this would be the coordinate 8, -4. So no matter where you are on this line, all the points will have an x value of 8. Okay? So remember, that's a vertical line. If I ever had something like that, y would always be -2. So vertical and horizontal are special in that they have an x alone without any y's, or horizontal will have a y without an x. Okay, write an equation for a line that's perpendicular to the line drawn, and then yours goes through this point, -3, 3. Okay, so this line, what's the slope of this line? So I'm going to go from that point to that point, and can you tell me what the slope would be? Down and right. So -1 over 2. So how do you find a perpendicular slope? Do you remember? You reciprocate and change the sign. So positive 2 over 1. So from this point, if I went up to right 1, And does that look perpendicular? Yeah, looks perpendicular. Okay, so how do I write this? If I'm given, I know the slope, a slope of my line and a point of my line. So now, which form? You're going to write point slope form from your formula sheet. Okay, I'm not doing mx plus b because I don't know the y-intercept, right? I know a point and I know slope, so I'm going to use point slope. So 2 and 1, that's my slope, x and y. So now I fill in my point, but remember, because in the formula you're subtracting the values, you always write the opposite. So what's the opposite of this x? Plus 3. And what's the opposite of the y? Minus 3.